I want to start by explaining how the routes actually work, because if you don't know that, none of the rest of this is going to land properly. I deliver packages. I've done it for about 5 years now, mostly on the app-based blocks where you pick up a load at a warehouse. The app gives you a route, and you work it until the van's empty. You get paid for the block, not the stop, so the whole game is efficiency. Most drivers want dense routes. Apartment buildings, subdivisions, 40 stops in a square mile. I take the rural ones. I take them because almost nobody else will, which means they're nearly always available, and because they pay a surcharge that works out to about $11 extra a block. I've got a paid-off transit with 260,000 miles on it. I know every county road inside a 40-mile radius. Rural routes are long and boring, and I like them. You need to understand one more thing, and then I'll get to it. Every stop in the app comes with 3 things. The PIN, that's the GPS coordinate. The address, which is usually a rural route box number. And the delivery instructions, which are typed in by the customer. Not by the company, by whoever holds the account. If somebody wants their box left behind a planter, they type that in, and it shows on your screen when you arrive. The instructions are the whole story. Just hold on to that. The address I want to tell you about first showed up on a Thursday in March, 2 years ago. It was the last stop of the block, which is normal for that kind of address. The routing software puts the far ones at the end. County road, then about 6 miles out past where the houses stop being close together, then a right onto a private gravel drive with a mailbox at the top of it and no name on the mailbox. The PIN was 1.2 miles down that drive. I turned in. The drive was in decent condition, which I noticed because most private drives that far out aren't. They wash out and nobody grades them. This one had been graded. There were fresh tire tracks in it. About 400 yards and there's a farm gate. Metal, 5-bar, standing open, pushed back against the fence line and grown over enough that it clearly hadn't been closed in years. And the app pinged the arrival notification and the delivery instructions came up on the screen. It said, "Leave at the gate. Do not drive past the gate." That's all. 9 words. Now, I want to be really clear that this is not strange. That is a completely normal delivery instruction. I get variations of it constantly. People have dogs. People have washed out driveways. People don't want a van in their yard. Leave at the gate is probably in the top 5 things anybody types into that box. So I stopped at the gate. I got out. I put the package down against the gate post, took the proof of delivery photo, tapped it complete, and reversed back up the drive to the county road. The whole stop took 90 seconds. I didn't think about it once for the next 3 weeks. The second time was in April. Same address. Last stop of the block again. Same drive, same open gate. And this time the instructions on the screen were longer. It said, "Leave at the second tree past the gate. Do not come further than the second tree." And I remember standing there in the open van door reading that and thinking, well, which second tree? Because past the gate the drive runs into woods. And there are hundreds of trees. On both sides. It's woods. So I walked past the gate with the box under my arm. And I got about 20 yards and I saw it. There were 2 trees standing closer to the track than the rest. Big ones. Oaks, I think. One on the left, then about 15 feet on, one on the right. They didn't line up with anything. They were just the 2 nearest trees. And once you were past the gate on foot, it was completely obvious which one somebody meant. And nailed to the second one, at about chest height, was a laminated card. Handwritten, black marker, block capitals, gone slightly gray from sun through the plastic. And it said, "Thank you. Here is fine. Please do not come further. We can see you." I put the package down at the base of that tree, took the photo, and I walked back to the van at what I describe as a normal speed, and I would like the record to show that I did not run. And here's what I thought, and I want to be fair about it because it kept me completely calm for about 4 months. I thought, somebody out here is elderly or agoraphobic or immunocompromised or just extremely private, and They've laminated a card so they don't have to keep retyping it. And "we can see you" means there's a camera or a window or a person with binoculars. And they put that on there so drivers don't wander down the track looking for a house. That is a totally reasonable explanation. It's probably the explanation most of you are sitting on right now. I built it in about 4 seconds, and I lived in it very comfortably. Over the next 11 months, I delivered to that address 9 more times. 11 total. Always the last stop. Always small boxes, and I noticed that because he noticed weight all day. Nothing over about 2 pounds. Nothing that rattled. Nothing shaped like anything. Always the same instruction, word for word. Always the same laminated card, getting a little grayer. And I never once saw a person, a light, a vehicle, or a dog. The thing that finally cracked it open wasn't brave or clever. It was a Sunday, and I was bored. I looked the parcel number up on the county assessor's site. It's public. Anybody can do it. You put in an address, and it gives you the plot, the acreage, the tax status, and whether there's a structure on it. 41 acres. Taxes current, paid every year, no delinquency. Improvements, none. That's the word they use. Improvements. It means buildings. It means there is no house, no barn, no shed, no mobile home, no permanent structure of any kind on that land, and there hasn't been in the entire period the record covers. I want to say clearly that this does not necessarily mean anything. Records are wrong all the time. People build without permits constantly, especially out there. A structure could be standing on that land right now and simply not be on a form. But it did mean I'd spent 11 months delivering packages to a driveway that, on paper, doesn't lead anywhere. So I went out on a Saturday afternoon in daylight in my own car, and I walked it. Past the gate, past the 2 oaks and the laminated card. And I kept going. The track runs another half mile, and then it just stops. It doesn't end at anything. It widens out into a turnaround the way a logging road does, and there's grass growing through the middle of it, and there is nothing there. No foundation, no vernisca, no El Cap, nothing. I stood in that turnaround for about 10 minutes in full afternoon sun, and it was the most ordinary place I have ever been in my life. Birds, wind, some beer cans that were clearly 20 years old, and I drove home feeling ridiculous. The last one was in February. Last stop, dark by 4:30 that time of year, cold and raining that fine rain that doesn't fall so much as hang there. I came down the drive, and my headlights swung around and lit the gate, and I got out with the box. Instructions on the screen. Same 9 words, plus the second tree. Same as always. I walked past the gate, got to the second oak, put the box down at the base of it, and then I did what the app makes you do, which is take the proof of delivery photo, and it was dark enough that the flash fired. And in the flash, I saw the packages. Not one, not a few. There was a line of them running away from that tree along the inside of the tree lane, going off in both directions past the edge of what my flash reached. Cardboard boxes, brown, ordinary, sitting in the wet grass. Some of them collapsed and dark with rot. Some of them not. All of them still taped shut. I've thought about the number a lot, and I genuinely can't give you one. More than 11. It was more than 11. They weren't arranged. That's the part I keep coming back to. They weren't in a circle or a pattern or anything you could point at and call deliberate. They were just placed, one after another, the way you'd set something down if you were carrying it and had decided that was far enough. I have not photographed them. I have thought about that decision every week for 2 years. I walked back to the van. I did not run, and I want that on the record too. And I got in, and I reversed a mile up that drive in the dark without turning around, because turning around would have meant putting the tree lean in my headlights. I took the address off my route the next morning. You can do that. You flag a stop as unsafe, and the system stops routing it to you and gives it to somebody else. I wrote, "No safe turnaround, private drive," in the reason box, which was true. and which was not why. And that would be the whole story, except for one thing that happened about 4 months later. I was at the warehouse on a Tuesday morning, waiting on a load, talking to a driver I'd seen around for years, but never really talked to. Older guy, and we were doing the thing drivers do, which is complain about routes. And I said, half joking, the way you'd float something to see if it lands. I said, you ever get that one out past the county line with the note nailed to the tree? He didn't laugh. He said, the second tree. And I said, yeah. And he said, yeah, don't go past it. And then he picked up his scanner and went to his van, and I did not follow him, and I never brought it up again. Not to him, not to anybody at that warehouse, not in 2 years. Because if it had been nothing, he'd have laughed. That's all I've got. A man I barely knew heard 4 words and knew exactly which tree I meant. And then he told me the same thing the card told me. And he told it to me like it was practical advice. I don't know who was paying the taxes. I don't know who typed the instructions. I don't know what was in the boxes, and I've made my peace with the fact that I'm never going to. I only take metro blocks now. Apartments 400 stops a week, hallways and lobbies and elevators, and I complain about it constantly to anybody who'll listen. And there's one thing I do that I've never explained to anyone, including my wife. If a delivery instruction tells me where I can leave a package, that's fine. That's the job. But if a delivery instruction tells me where I can't go, if it draws a line and puts me on one side of it, I don't take that stop. I flag it, and I let somebody else have it, and I do not look at the address again.